The woman's complexion was completely discolored. It was whitish yellow, as if the blood had been drained from her face. Her eyes seemed as if they were being sucked out of the sockets. Her lips were cracked and swollen. Her cheekbones were disfigured and repulsively protruded from her face. And her hair was dry, trashy, and matted. Her face was wet with tears. Her speech was slurred as she said, "I know whom you are and why you've come. But Mrs. Zacchaeus, oh Mrs. Zacchaeus, I don't have any way of paying my taxes. You see, for 12 years I've had a blood disorder. In that time, my husband divorced me and I lost all my health benefits. Now I have no savings or any money to pay my bills. And I've even pawned my jewelry and sold all my furniture. And everything in my checking account is spent. But give me 30 days. 30 days, church.
All right.
Just 30 days. All I need is at least 30 days. Zacchaeus was caught between greed and grace. He said, for some reason, I feel benevolent today.
All right.
You have 30 days, but when I return, I want the taxes. As he walked away, he thought, maybe I'll have better luck at the next house. As Zacchaeus walked around the bend, he spotted a third house. A woman stood listless, almost catatonic, in front of the house. She stared into space, not even seeming to recognize that he was moving closer to her. When he tried to speak to her, there was no response. Suddenly he heard a spine-chilling scream, "Ah!" from behind him. Zacchaeus turned sharply to see where the scream came from. On the hillside, across the street, running for her life, was a nude man. He was between the stones in the graveyard. His silhouette looked like a cross between a man and a beast. He was recklessly ruining himself. Now the woman in front of the house broke her silence. That man was once my husband, she said. He was a good man. I'm still praying that one day he'll be restored and return to his family. Some have suggested that I should move on with my life, but I still love that man. He's the father of my children. I'm not sure if it will ever happen because no man can tame him and no man can bind him. He calls himself Legion because he's possessed by many demons, she added. Now Zacchaeus was caught between dollars and demons. Not anxious to dialogue with demons though, Zacchaeus began to retrace his steps. Before the woman said anything about the taxes, Zacchaeus said, I'll be back in your area in 30 days. Be prepared to pay upon my return. He hurriedly turned away, his heart still palpitating. He looked at his day planner and noticed there was one last house to visit. When he arrived, there was a funeral ornament hanging on the door, suggesting that someone had died. But not even a family tragedy would stop Zacchaeus, so he knocked anyway. A grieving woman, veiled and dressed in black, answered the door. I know who you are and why you've come, she said. Zacchaeus, my son died yesterday, and I'm on my way to the funeral. I had to use the tax money to bury my only son. I've already given some to your neighbors. I've already given some of your neighbors 30 days, Zacchaeus said. So I'll be back in 30 days. 30 days, I'll be back. Zacchaeus said, I'll be back in 30 days. Now Zacchaeus was trapped between law and love. Trapped between law and love. But before returning back to the four homes to collect taxes, this is where it gets interesting. Zacchaeus decided that he would get into a time machine and go into the future, into the year 2004. He decided to go to a state called Indiana, to a town called Gary. He went to 2700 Jackson Street, to the Douglas School. Housed inside the school was a new church start called Trinity United Church of Christ Gary. Zacchaeus let the pastor know that he was here to collect the taxes. The pastor responded, I can't pay. We're just a little church. We barely have 10 members. After we pay our rent for using the auditorium, we have nothing left. We don't have enough money to pay my salary or the salary of the minister of music. the denomination in Trinity UCC Chicago, they're subsidizing us financially. We need some time. Please, Mr. Zacchaeus, can you give us more time? Zacchaeus said, I'm in a pretty charitable mood. I'm going to give you more time, but I'll be back in 30 days. He got back in the time machine and he went home. 30 days passed quickly. Zacchaeus left home at the crack of dawn, as he did every day. He opened the day planner and noticed that this was the day he was to return to those 4 homes, those houses that represented the most unproductive day in his career as a tax collector. He squared his shoulders and he walked. He said aloud to himself and to anyone who might overhear, no sob stories today. Nothing will dissuade me today. They will either pay, surrender their property, or be thrown in prison, Greg. At the first house, he noticed a significant change. The grass had been cut and manicured. The house had undergone extensive renovation. He knocked on the door. Zacchaeus became mesmerized when he saw the man who answered the door. He had a piercing gaze and a voice that boomed with authority. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm looking for the man of the house, the blind man. I am the man of the house. No, Zacchaeus replied, I was here 30 days ago, and the man I spoke with was blind. I am that man. I was blind, Mr. Zacchaeus. Let me explain to you my story. One day a man told me that Jesus was coming to our town, so I ran to the town square so that I could see him. I knew it might be my only chance to meet him when Jesus was passing by. I heard all the commotion. I asked, what's happening? They said, Jesus is passing by. And I yelled, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. The townspeople, the city leaders, and the religious leaders, they all said, hush. You're making a nuisance of yourself. You're embarrassing the town. But I cried louder, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Then they tried to silence me, but I knew this was my only chance. I cried louder, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. The man looked directly at the tax collector and said, Zacchaeus, do you have the time? Sit down and let me tell you what happened. For I have a testimony to tell. This is the way it was. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. Amen. Amen. As Zacchaeus walked away, he thought, this is someday. A man who was blind can now see. Inside his day planner were the coins from the once blind man. Zacchaeus mused, one day I hope I will meet Jesus. Maybe Jesus can do something for my condition too. That man has said that this world's God has blinded the minds of unbelievers so they cannot see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. Zacchaeus muttered aloud, I hope I can see Jesus one day. So he went walking. Upon arriving at the second house, he knocked on the door, and a beautiful woman, radiant with joy, answered. She had color in her cheeks, a little sparkle in her eyes. She had a new hairdo. Yes, she was stylish. Her nails had been freshly manicured. Mr. Zacchaeus, she said, it's good to see you. She was smiling effortlessly, even glamorously. I'm looking for the woman of the house, Zacchaeus said. I am the woman of the house, she said. Wait a minute. Do you know your blind neighbor down the street? Yes, I know him. But he's not blind anymore. I know, Zacchaeus said. He paid his tax today. Yes, and he sold the guide dog, she added. Zacchaeus, when I told you to come back 30 days ago, that was only a ploy. I was confident that in 30 days I would be dead. In fact, I had been praying to die. I thought that the only death could deliver me from the unbearable existence. But a friend told me that Jesus was coming to town. I elbowed my way through the suffocating crowd. And when I got close enough, I stretched out and was just able to touch the hem of his garment. And at that moment I touched him. The blood that had been flowing for 12 years immediately dried up. But not only was my body healed, my soul was made whole. Even though my faith was inadequate, he made it sufficient. I don't know how much of this I can take. A blind man who can see, a dying woman who's full of life. Zacchaeus, I know it's hard to believe, but I need to tell you what happened. I've had some good days. I've had some hills to climb. I've had some weary years and some sleepless nights. But when I look around and I think things over, all of my good days, they outweigh my bad days. Y'all know the song. I won't complain. Zacchaeus, no more doctor bills. No more prescriptions to fill. I've been able to save a little money. Like my old ex-blind friend, here's the money for your taxes. Zacchaeus turned sharply and headed toward the third house. He thought, this is a weird and wacky day. I wonder if I'll ever meet Jesus. Like that woman, I've had some long-standing, ever-present problems. I've had some painful experiences. Maybe if I could meet Jesus, he could do something about my problems. Soon he was in front of that third house. He looked for the woman to be standing in front of the house, but she was not there. When he knocked on the door, the woman answered. But before they could start talking, a handsome young man walked out from behind her. Zacchaeus first thought, I'm glad this woman got a man. She should have kicked that old grave dweller to the curb. About the same time, the woman spoke up. Mr. Zacchaeus, I want you to meet my husband. You haven't met this man because when you were here 30 days ago, his home was in the graveyard. But look at him now. Doesn't he look good? He's clothed and in his right mind, Mr. Zacchaeus. I owe you an apology. 30 days ago, I told you that no man could tame him and no man could bind him. But that was before Jesus stepped off the boat. When Jesus walked in, the demons walked out. Look at him now. He's a new man, Mr. Zacchaeus. If you want to be a new man, go meet Jesus. He will change your life forever and make you a new and better man. Old things will pass away and all things will become new. My husband met Jesus and his life had been forever changed. Wait a minute. Her husband cut in. She can tell the story, but it's my testimony as well. And she didn't experience it like I experienced it. Sit down, Zacchaeus. You can't stand up and listen to this. I need to tell you what happened. I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. The angels in heaven done shine my name. The husband finished his song, and then he paid the tax collector. As Zacchaeus left, he thought a blind man who can now see, a dying helpless woman who's now healed and full of life, and a demon-possessed man who's been delivered. Now I wonder if someday I will ever meet Jesus. I've got some demons hounding my heels. At the last home, he thought rather sarcastically, I wonder what surprise they would have for me now. When he knocked on the door, the cutest little boy with the wildest smile opened the door. I'm sorry, I must be at the wrong house, said Zacchaeus. There is no little boy that lives in the house that I'm looking for. Ironically, 30 days ago, the woman in the house was on her way to bury her only son. Are you Mr. Zacchaeus? The boy said. Mama's been expecting you. She said that you'd be back in 30 days. And Mama said you never late collecting taxes. Zacchaeus was startled. His heartbeat surged and blood rushed to his head. He paused and gazed steadily at the boy, then turned